We welcome you in on this Monday edition of the program. A brisk Monday, December 16th, 2024. We appreciate you joining us here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Woke up this morning, the car internal thermometer, 33 degrees.
Really?
It was cold this morning. I've now updated it to brisk.
Okay.
Because when I checked my watch, it said 56 degrees. You can't call that cold.
No, that's a lot better.
I think below 40 is when you can start using the term cold.
That's fair.
And I also use this gauge. When I drop my daughter off in the morning, if it is over 40 degrees, they have a little outdoor recess before she goes to school.
Yep.
If it is below 40, they go directly inside. So if they go directly inside, cold. I am willing to say that is now officially cold. So it was cold this morning. It is now brisk. It definitely feels like winter. It feels like the holidays.
Yeah.
It feels like that time. Saturday spent my day shopping.
Really?
Boy, was that a mistake.
Yeah.
Because everybody else had the same idea this weekend.
Did you get everything done, though?
Define everything.
Like, do you have all your presents bought?
No.
Okay.
I do not.
Good luck.
I have a good amount of the ones that I needed to get in person accomplished.
Okay.
Done on Saturday. The rest,
delivery.
I mean, Amazon, baby. Jeff Bezos is going to have my back. That's what I was doing yesterday while I was sitting down, watching some football, perusing Amazon, making sure that I've got everything ready to go for the holidays. Because Saturday, listen, we've got ASU coming up here in a couple of weeks in the college football playoff quarterfinal matchup. But the Bowls are starting to start, but there's not a ton of stuff going on Saturday. So it was nice to be like, you know what? I've got the day. Let's go out. Let's shop. Problem was, everybody else had the same idea.
Yeah.
And so it was me and thousands of my closest friends shopping over the weekend at various different establishments. But that was my weekend. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend, and you probably did because, well, it's the topic of our daily special today.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
About as perfect of a Sunday as you could get for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, comparatively.
You defeat the New England Patriots, you get back to 500, you snap your 3-game losing streak since the bye. So you're now 7-7. You get your first win post-bye. And then on Sunday night, you watch the Seahawks get embarrassed by the Green Bay Packers, putting you just 1 game back of the first place spot in the NFC West. Now, the Rams currently have the tiebreaker. You're going to play the Rams here in 2 weeks. So, again, about as best of a Sunday as you could get for the Arizona Cardinals. You win, Seahawks lose. It is 1 game separating you from the division. Your playoff hopes are still alive. If they lost yesterday and we were talking about a 6-8 football team, we would have come in here, we would have hit that sounder, and it would have been the Cardinal season is over. They are at least still mathematically alive. We talked all last week, 8.5% chance. We talked all the pathways. They started that pathway yesterday. They defeated the New England Patriots, and they got the loss to the Seahawks that they needed to at least close the gap a little bit. Now, here is the catch-22 of all of this. They won. They kept their playoff hopes alive. They snapped their 3-game losing streak. That's all good. I don't know how impressive yesterday's performance was. You had to have some of the breaks go your way, right? You had a big man touchdown. Greg Dortch fumbles the ball into the end zone. Jonah Williams is there to hop on it before he touches out of bounds. And then Kyler throws a terrible interception, but it gets called back because of a roughing the passer penalty. Listen, I'd rather be lucky than good. Yesterday, the Cardinals were both lucky and somewhat good. But it was not an impressive performance when you consider the opponent. When you consider what they did. Kyler's stat line, very pedestrian. Overall, it was the similar formula that we've seen from this team on a regular basis. We're going to run the football. We're just not going to turn the ball over, and we're going to be there in the end. Not as impressive as what the Bills did, scoring the amount of points they did on the Lions. You go across the National Football League, you can pick what the Eagles did to the Steelers. That's impressive. And we'll get to that when we do the NFL Rewind here at the bottom of the hour. Those performances were impressive. This performance got the job done, check. Bigger picture, I don't know if this changes how I feel about this team the rest of the way. I don't think yesterday changes how we have felt the last 3 weeks coming in here talking about this team, watching their season slip away. I don't know if yesterday turned the corner on how we feel. But they had the breaks go their way, and at the end of the day, they got a victory. And where you can point to where this game was won for the Arizona Cardinals, it was coming out of the second half because they opened up the half with a field goal to take a 16-3 lead, but they went into halftime 13-3. And I got to be honest, it felt like the Cardinals were playing with their food a little bit. Playing a bad opponent, didn't lean on them. It was only 10. There was a bunch of time during the first half where I felt like, man, if the Patriots score a touchdown here, the Cardinals are going to let them back into this game. They're going to let them build the momentum. And now this is going to be a slugfest for 4 quarters when if you just leaned on them a little bit more, you would end this game quickly and be able to kind of ease off the gas a little bit. And they just didn't necessarily do that. But they opened up the second half with a field goal. They take a 16-3 lead. They should have been up more than 13-3 at the half. And again, it felt like we were going to watch this game get close when it shouldn't have been close. But then this defense, just like they have done most of this season, came up big. We've had a lot of questions about them the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of questions about them since the meltdown in Minneapolis, since the disaster performance against Seattle. But they came up huge yesterday. The first drive that the Patriots had coming out of the second half after the Cardinals field goal to take a 16-3 lead, the Patriots move all the way down the field, and they make what I thought was the right decision at the time to go for it on 4th and goal, right? And they don't get it. A huge stop for the Cardinals. And that stop, that was the momentum play that I thought was lacking in the first half for this team. And then they followed that up with an interception. That led to a touchdown. And before you could blink, it was 23-3. That was the game right there to start the second half. So you played with your food a little bit in the first half, and then you let the Patriots kind of crawl back into it late. But the defense that has stood tall for the majority of this season, which has been the backbone of the 4-game winning streak, which was the backbone of this team getting into playoff contention, getting into the race for the NFC West, they stood on their head. They came through when the team needed it. And you know what? Yesterday, we're calling it unimpressive. It didn't really wow us. I don't think it changes how we feel big picture, but they did all the little things right. We said on Friday, hey, Kyler, don't turn the ball over. Now, we got a gift because he threw a bad interception that got taken off the board because of a turnover. Again, rather be lucky than good. So no turnovers. Didn't give the Patriots additional drives, additional opportunities to try to claw back into this game. No sacks in the game. Only 4 penalties. And they were 10 of 15 on third down. That's your recipe. That's the way the Arizona Cardinals want to play football. They're going to run the ball. They're not going to wow you with what they do, but they're going to play smart football. They're not going to commit penalties. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to be efficient, and they're going to look up at the end of the day at the scoreboard, and they are going to be victors. Now, where does that leave them with the rest of the NFC? I don't think this team currently constructed can win a playoff game against Minnesota. I don't think they can win a playoff game against Philly, against Detroit, against Green Bay, because I don't think they can keep up scoring-wise. I just haven't seen it. I know they're better offensively. Saw a stat this morning that their efficiency on offense went from being bottom third of the league to top 15. I think they were 11th in offensive efficiency this year. They have gotten better. I'm not taking that away from them. But you ask yourself this question. If they go into the playoffs and they draw the Eagles, they draw the Bucks, they draw the Packers, just name a team that they might face in the playoffs at some point, either in the first round, in the wild card round, or if they win in the divisional round, ask yourself, can they hang with the Detroit Lions, who in a loss yesterday, Jared Goff threw 5 touchdowns in a loss, they scored 42. Can you see the Arizona Cardinals doing that? And so that's where yesterday, while yes, it feels good, while yes, it's much better than the alternative is me starting the week ranting, raving, screaming like a lunatic about the Cardinals being 0-4 since the bye week and opening up Pandora's box for a whole host of questions. I'm very happy that we are not having that conversation today. I'm very happy that relatively it was an easygoing performance yesterday. I think the Cardinals played with their food a little bit in the first half, and I don't think they changed the narrative about where they're at. They at least stopped the narrative for a second. They haven't reversed the narrative. So yesterday, a really important stopping point. They now need to stack some performances together here down the stretch with 3 games remaining for us to not look at this as a disaster and not look at this ending of the season as a disappointment. And with the Seahawks losing last night, they are just 1 game back of first place. You can look at that in 2 different ways. You can take the glass half full approach, and maybe that's how we'll start the show here today, and say, after all this, the 2-4 start, the 3 straight losses coming out of the bye, and countless times being told this team is dead, this team isn't making the playoffs, this team isn't very good, this team is middle of the road. After all of the things that we have said, after every major disappointment this team has had, they are just 1 game out, and they have a host of opportunities the rest of the way. They have a favorable matchup in their back pocket. They have the schedule advantage when you compare their schedule to Seattle's, when you compare their schedule to the Rams. They've already beaten the Rams 1 time this season, so beating them again would give them the tiebreaker against them in their back pocket. They play the Panthers this week, who seemingly hit that wall that we thought was coming a couple of weeks ago. They finally hit it against the Cowboys. Now, you got to go out there and play the game. You got to take the field. You got to beat Carolina. You certainly would expect the Cardinals to do so. It's what they've been doing all year. That's the glass half full approach. Now, you can look at the glass half empty and say, yeah, they're 7-7. Yeah, they're one game back of first place and a home playoff game. Just imagine where they would have been if they didn't blow the 2 games to Seattle. If they didn't blow the game in the fourth quarter to Minnesota, what type of team would we be talking about? We would be talking about a team that might already be double-digit wins. We might already be talking about a team that's run away with this division to where they don't have this thin margin of error. You can look at it either way you want to look at it. For me, as somebody who has been in this market for over a decade, for somebody who has watched the good, bad, and ugly when it comes to this team, I'm going to take the glass half full approach. This football team is playing meaningful football in December. They have to finish the job over the next 3 weeks, and even that might not be enough. But them finishing the job and putting the pressure on these other teams would at least allow us to think that this season was a success. This continuing to be a dumpster fire post-bye would have not been a pretty sight. It would have opened up a lot of questions about the future of this organization. So I wasn't all that impressed yesterday. It's the New England Patriots. You should have beaten them. And this wasn't as impressive as I watched this team play against the Jets, as I watched this team play against the Bears. It was not that level. But they played a bad opponent. They played that bad opponent at home, and they came through when they needed to come through, and they earned a victory to snap their 3-game losing streak. They got to 500, and they are right back in the thick of this NFC West race for the playoffs. That is all that you can ask for. Now you shift focus to Carolina this upcoming Sunday. On the other side, I have a declaration to make about the Phoenix Suns. I will make that declaration next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. The KDUS AM 1060 app, make sure you download it. You register. You're logged in while you're listening. You get an opportunity to win prizes for doing so. You can take the station with you on the go. The best way to listen to the station. Maybe you want to see the show. You can do so via the KDUS 1060 YouTube channel. Just search KDUS AM 1060 on YouTube, and we're live right now. I just waved to the camera there on YouTube, so if you want to see the visual product, you want to see the video version of the show, you can do so over there. Producer Corey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know whose headphones I'm wearing today?
I think those are our spare.
Those are our spare. Good. Then you know what? I'm glad we have a spare set here in the studio because
Yes.
I'm going to let everybody in on some behind the scenes. About 30 seconds before we went on the air, I plugged in my headphones.
Yeah.
And I put them in. And I usually have the in-ear earbuds.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I have in my office. Those are the ones I just carry around with me. And I plugged them in. I was only hearing stuff out of one ear.
Oh.
And I could have done it. I could have battled through. It's a Monday.
Yeah.
Right? I could be a trooper. I've got a lot of great stuff to get to. I'm about to make a major declaration about the Phoenix Suns here in about 2 seconds. I could have pushed through. But I saw these headphones off to the side. And I said, you know what? Let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
I've put these on over my. I'm listening to a totally different show, totally different station. It's just wild to me. These are so different than the in-ear ones.
Oh.
Like the sound is so much better.
Yeah.
I was missing out with the in-ear ones.
No, yeah, full-on headphones are always better.
Oh yeah, I think now on my way home I'm going to stop and get myself a pair, or I'm just going to continue to use the spare until we figure out whose they are.
Yeah.
But boy, was that almost a disaster before the show because again, the mild inconvenience. I could have done the show, but
Yeah.
only hearing. Because I hear myself in my ear to make sure I'm not like screaming. And so to only hear that out of one ear is incredibly like disorienting for me doing the show. And so I needed to scramble and find something. Luckily enough, there were these headphones right here next to me. And so I grabbed those and I sound nice and crisp in my ears.
Yeah.
This is so much better than
The quality jump is insane.
I have a declaration to make about the Phoenix Suns. They went 2-0 over the weekend, beat the Jazz on Friday, beat the Portland Trailblazers on Sunday. So some of you might think this declaration a little out of bounds. Maybe the timing isn't right. But I'm sitting around on Friday. We'll do a little story time here before I make the declaration. I'm sitting around on Friday, getting ready to enjoy a weekend. Took the family to dinner. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden I see on my phone that Bradley Beal, it's a game time decision. Some swelling in his knee. And then we get closer to tip. Bradley Beal's not playing. And so Bradley Beal didn't play against the Utah Jazz. And Bradley Beal didn't play last night against the Portland Trailblazers. So just after we spent all week, they're getting Kevin Durant back. Here's their chance the next 15, 20 games. They can chart the course, pick a direction, either be successful and we can see this through, or these injuries are going to continue to pop up and we're just be bad and we can make the decision to cut our losses here and blow this whole thing up, right? That was what we talked all last week about. We couldn't make it a second into the game on Friday. A second. We didn't even get to the tip-off before Bradley Beal was out of the lineup before Kevin Durant could return. So you know what? I'm ready to do it. I know they went 2-0 over the weekend. I'm ready to do it. I'm out on the rest of the season for the Phoenix Suns. I am done. D-O-N-E, capital letters, bold, underline, italics, done.
Full on? It's not even New Year's yet.
I am done. I'm out. This team's not going anywhere. This team is not going to the Western Conference Finals. This team's not winning a championship. They are cooked. We couldn't even get Kevin Durant back for one game from the last injury before a new injury for the other injured star popped up. I know they went 2-0. They played Utah and Portland.
Yes.
So spare me if I'm not going to allow those two games against those two opponents to sway me from this position. I quote tweeted the news after, I think it was Dwayne Rankin of the Arizona Republic reported that it seemed unlikely that Beal was going to go. And I said, we can't have anything nice. This team is broken. They're a flawed team, designed in a way that is incredibly flawed, built with two stars who seemingly can't stay healthy, a third star who, while playing great over the weekend, and we're going to get into this in hour number 2, is not the player that he's been in recent years. This team is broken. And I understand that I am saying this on the Monday after they won 2 games. They beat Utah and Portland. So allow me to not change my opinion because they beat 2 teams at the bottom part of the Western Conference playoff tree. I'm good. I'm done. I don't need to see anything. I don't need to see a 10-game stretch of this altogether. I'm good. I am not going to allow myself to try to convince myself that all this team needs is one good 10, 15, 20 game stretch with everybody healthy to buy back in. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's going to be short-lived. Because while we might get that 10, 15 game, 20 game stretch where they're all healthy, you just know. Because you've got 4 examples already this season that it's not going to last. And so I'm sorry. I am not going to exert my energy, exert my time, watching a team that I know isn't going to be the team that it is supposed to be for the rest of the season. Kevin Durant couldn't come back, missed a week. We got all excited last week. Kevin Durant's coming back. Not a 2-week injury, just a 1-week injury. He's going to be back in the lineup on Friday. Big 3. We know what their record is when Kevin Durant is in the lineup. And by the way, it continued because they won both games over the weekend. And before the officials could get into the building on Friday, Bradley Beal out. Bradley Beal missing both games over the weekend. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to say into this microphone to you all? That things are going to be okay? That he's going to come back and we are going to see the big 3 in action? This is a flawed team. They are built with a big 3 that never play as a big 3. You can't win that way in the NBA. You can't do it. You are already bucking the trend. Everybody is moving away from this as a philosophy. They're going to the dynamic duo. You are back in the old era of the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors with the big 3. You are playing an old school version of basketball. You can't play that version of basketball with a big 3 and only have 2 of the big 3 on the floor. It's not sustainable. You can beat the Utahs of the world with it. You can beat the Trailblazers of the world with it, especially when it's Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But you have built this house of cards on the idea of a big 3. And just like we had this same conversation last year, we are having the same conversation again this year. They can't stay healthy. So I'm good. I'm done. I'm putting myself on the record here. This team is not going to go far in the Western Conference playoffs. This team is not going to be in the Western Conference finals. This team is not making the NBA finals. They're not winning a championship. You can mark it down. December 16th, 2024, Chris is out on the Phoenix Suns. I'm out. So we're going to mark it down that this is the day that I said I'm good. I don't need to see anymore. I don't need to try to twist myself into a pretzel to convince myself that if Bradley Beal can just come back and they can play 15 or 20 games together, that I'll convince myself that they are championship contenders.
Yeah, too many ifs.
Because I can continue to do this. We know that AI is emerging in every field, right?
Yes.
And it is kind of impacting our field.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, personality is what drives this industry.
Yes.
Talk radio, right? You can't replicate my energy level right now. You can't replicate my personality, right?
Yeah.
You could, when it comes to this topic, you could have AI record a segment about the Phoenix Suns. Well, if the big 3 are healthy, they're a championship contender. But when they're not healthy, they're a lottery team.
It could have been it last year even.
And we could just replay it. You could put it on the soundboard here, and anytime we wanted to talk about the Phoenix Suns, I could press it like I press the NFL music or the Daily Special Open. That's what this team has been refined to. That's what they are. They are not a team that deserves the energy right now. They had a great weekend. I hate that we got to a Monday here and the prevailing thought is, whew, without Bradley Beal, they were able to get through the weekend. They won 2 games. Okay, now we got to refocus. And I know the schedule is extremely favorable to them. And I know they're probably going to stack up some wins here. But we have to look at this through the big picture, through the 35,000-foot view of championship or not. And to me, on December 16, 2024, I'm ready to say it. This team not winning a championship. This team not going to the Western Conference Finals. I would go as far as to say we are watching a rerun of last year. And when this thing ends in a first-round exit, just like it did a year ago, maybe you win a game or 2, maybe you force a series to a Game 7, but I think we are barreling down towards watching this team do the same thing they did a year ago. Flame out in the first round of the playoffs. Like a fire that needs the extra log, right? You're sitting around the fire at night You start it, you're hanging out, you're talking with friends, all of a sudden 30 minutes later you look down, need some more wood on there because the fire's starting to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Phoenix Suns are going to be. That's what they are going to be. And so I am starting this week off with a declaration. The Phoenix Suns, in my mind, are done. December 16th, 2024. I am ready to put it on the bulletin board. We can mark it down. We will either play this back, and I will be extremely vindicated, or we will play this back while the Suns are sweeping everybody in the playoffs and going to the NBA Finals, and I will raise my hand and say I was wrong. But you know what? All of the evidence right now is on my side of the argument. So if you want to continue to believe, if you want to think that this team's all of a sudden going to find something that they haven't been able to find, which is health, if you think they're going to find that at some point, more power to you. You are setting yourself up for disappointment. You are setting yourself up for failure. I am choosing today to get off the ride. I'm good. I don't need the fast pass. I don't want to be on this ride in this line anymore. I will go do something else. So they won 2 games over the weekend. Great. Devin Booker looked better over the weekend. Great. We barely could get Kevin Durant back in the lineup before another injury popped up. I'm good. I am good. Coming up on the other side, we look back at Week 15 of the NFL schedule. It is the NFL Rewind. We do it next here on the lunch break. KDUS, AM 1060. Oh, man, it is a Monday show for sure today. A Monday show for sure. We are fired up. We welcome you back into the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. We got you until 1 o'clock here today on the program. Then you got the Gottlieb, Rich Eisen, the Rooster, Sports Zoo, and then Raiders football starting at 6 o'clock tonight. You can listen to the Raiders playing on Monday night starting at 6:30. Pre-show starts at 6. You can listen to that right here on KDUS AM 1060. There was other football action yesterday. We recap it all. We call it the NFL Rewind. So for Week 15, let's get it started. The Chiefs defeated the Browns. They finally showed us what we were asking for. The problem is, it might have come at a great cost because the story coming out of this game is not that the Chiefs finally covered. It's not that they moved to, 13-1. No, the story from this game now is Patrick Mahomes is dealing with an ankle injury that is being described as week to week. So, yes, they finally showed us what we have been clamoring for, what we have been asking for months now. They beat up a bad team. They beat up the Cleveland Browns 21-7. But at what cost? Is the door open slightly for the top seed in the AFC if the Chiefs have to turn to Carson Wentz for a little bit of time? We shall see. The Bengals, they defeated the Tennessee Titans 37-27. This is a case of too little, too late for the Cincinnati Bengals. We know what to expect from this group. They have one of the most prolific offenses in the game. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown has emerged. They moved on from Joe Mixon. They have turned things over to Chase Brown, and they are just operating as usual. Their problem is their defense. They gave up 27 to the Tennessee Titans, who benched Will Levis in this game. They benched him. They turned to Mason Rudolph. So, yes, the Bengals win the football game by 10. They cover the 5.5, by the way. I mean, are you kidding me with this weekend, Corey? Are you kidding me with this? We are going into tonight's Monday night football game 4-1 in the Schubert Six this week. Our only loss was the Commanders. We'll get to them in a second. But we are 4-1 going into tonight's game. Our 5-point play is what is still up for grabs. We have the Vikings covering against the Bears. So a huge week for us. We were 7-5 going into the week over our last 2 weeks. We are now 11-6 with one more game to go. We have a chance to be 12-6 over our last 3 weeks here making picks on the show. So if you've hopped on board and you have followed along, you are already in the green this week with one more game to go. A nice place to be for us heading into Monday night. So you get to 6-8. You have to run the table to even put yourself with a chance to make the playoffs. So too little, too late for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Commanders hold on. Yes, that's right. They hold on against the New Orleans Saints 20-19. The Saints are able to come back in this game after trailing 20-7 in the fourth quarter. They come storming back after making a quarterback change. Spencer Rattler comes in, and they drive down the field to score a touchdown to make it 20-19. And when you are a team that is going backwards, when you are a team that is all but out of the playoff race, you know what you do in these spots? You don't kick the extra point. You don't try to force overtime. Your best player, Alvin Kamara, out for the remainder of the game, or he was listed as questionable but didn't return to the game. You throw up the two fingers and you say, no time left on the clock, one play to win the football game. Yes, we'll take our chances to defeat the Commanders. Now, if you would have told me before they put up the two fingers what the play call would have been, the play they ran, I would have said, yeah, kick the field goal. Go to overtime. Because that play design was awful. That play design was terrible. I hate when teams on these 2-point plays in a condensed environment. When you're down in the red zone, it is already a condensed environment. You then run these half-field reads where you roll the quarterback out and he only has half the field to work with. You are taking an already condensed field and condensing it even further. The windows are so tight, and I'm sorry, I just don't trust Spencer Rattler to be able to thread the needle in that spot. Just not happening. So they fall short 20-19. The Commanders might be the most untrustworthy 9-win team in the league. This team is 9-5. They are on pace to go to the playoffs. Most untrustworthy 9-win team in the league. And if you're a Saints fan today, you have woken up wondering, probably should have started Spencer Rattler from the get-go. The Ravens, 35-14. They kind of messed with us in the first half. I thought we were going to play this game where we weren't going to cover the 16. They held on. Maybe all those drones that we're seeing over in New Jersey, Maybe those are just more banners that should be flying over the stadium because another plane flew over MetLife Stadium before the Giants game asking for the owner of the team, John Mara, to fire everybody, to move on. So maybe those drones that everybody's talking about over New Jersey, maybe those drones should turn around, go over MetLife Stadium. Maybe they'll get some attention from the owner of the New York Giants. The Cowboys defeated the Panthers 30-14. The story here is the Panthers finally ran out of gas. The last couple of weeks, they've played extremely competitive football. They took the Chiefs to the limit. They took the Bucks to the limit in overtime. They played it close against the Eagles as 13-point underdogs. They were favorites this week, and you saw a team that ran out of gas. We tried to hop on this when they played the Eagles. We thought that was going to be the moment that they ran out of gas. They ultimately were able to keep that game close and cover. Not the case here against the Cowboys, who I guess still have a path in the playoffs. I guess they don't have an E next to their name, so they are still mathematically alive. The Jets defeated the Jaguars 32-25 for the first time this season. The New York Jets scored 30 points in a football game. They got to 30, they won the football game, and Davante Adams still has it. Aaron Rodgers completed 3 passes in the first half. All right? I'm reminding you. 3 pass completions for Aaron Rodgers in the first half. Remember that when I tell you this next stat. Davante Adams ended the game with 9 catches for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. The first half, Rodgers completed 3 passes. Davante Adams still is him. He still has some gas left in the tank, and you saw the Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams connection that Jets fans thought they were signing up for when they made the trade earlier in the season. The Dolphins lost to the Texans 20-12. You see what happens when you play good teams? You did this against the Pack on Thanksgiving. Now you did it here against the Texans. You're able to beat up on those bad opponents. But when it comes time to beat a good team to keep yourself in the playoff race, the Dolphins come up short. You know what? I said that the Commanders are the most untrustworthy 9-win team in the NFL. How about they make some room at that dinner table? Let's add the Houston Texans to there as well because they are 9-5. I don't think I trust them. C.J. Stroud does not look like the quarterback that he was in his rookie campaign, and I'm saying that as somebody who has him in fantasy and constantly watches him just put up 1 touchdown performances on a regular basis. Now, it's working for Houston. They're winning football games. So I'm not here to try to compare fantasy football to real football. But it's just he is not putting up the numbers that we are used to seeing from him. It's working. I just worry about it in the playoffs when they take on a good team. The Colts travel to Denver. Denver beats them 31-13. A brutal play that is the difference in this football game. Jonathan Taylor is walking into the end zone to score a touchdown to make it 20-7. He drops the ball before he gets to the goal line. How many times does this stuff, and that's the word I'll use, this stuff have to happen before somebody learns? Over and over and over again, we see these boneheaded plays in football where guys drop the ball before crossing the goal line. What are we doing? Change the entire complexity of the game. The Colts don't score the rest of the way. They lose 31-13. The difference a year makes. Think about how we were talking about the Denver Broncos last year with Sean Payton, with Russell Wilson. Are we sure it was going to work out? Are we sure they made the right decision? Where do they go from here? A year later, this team, 9 wins, looking like they are very much in play in the playoffs. The Bills beat the Lions 48-42. I would go on record to say this might be the best version of the Bills we've seen yet. And I know they lost a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. This might be the best Josh Allen we're seeing. This is the best Bills offense that we are seeing. He's in line to win an MVP trophy. This is potentially the best version of the Bills we have seen. My takeaway on the Lions side of things, people still don't understand Dan Campbell, and they still don't understand modern football. I can't tell you how many people, Trey Wingo was the first that I saw with this, lose their minds over the decision by Dan Campbell, down 38-28 with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, deciding to go for an onside kick. Let me let everybody in on a little secret. Your argument for why you wouldn't kick the onside kick is, oh, if you don't get it, you're giving the Bills a short field. They were operating with a short field the whole game. They had scored 38 points with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Lions defense wasn't stopping anybody. I think I could put together a team of people in this building, and we would have scored on the Lions defense yesterday. That's how porous they were. So instead, Dan Campbell said, yeah, I know my chances of getting the onside kick aren't very good, but I think they're higher than the chances my defense get a stop. And you know what? If they score quickly, I'll at least get the ball back. People don't understand modern football. There is zero reason why you should kick it away there. I agreed with the decision 100%. You scored a touchdown, you have the momentum, it's 38-28. You need to get the ball back. Your defense was Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese. Holes all over the place. Injuries galore. Why not try to get an onside kick? It has to be a better play than what your defense was giving you. The Steelers, they finally played a good team. They lost to the Eagles 27-13. There you go. There's the difference between two teams who were similar in record. That's the difference. Steelers still a good football team. They're not on that level. They're not in that tier yet. You saw it yesterday. The Bucs defeated the Chargers 40-17. The Bucs take over. The Chargers. We talked about Houston being in the 9-win club of teams I don't trust. We talked about Washington being in the club of 9-win teams I don't trust. The Los Angeles Chargers, I'd like for them to have a seat at that table. I'd like for them to join the Commanders and the Texans. They don't even have 9 wins, so they can't even join that table. They can't even get there. And then, last night, the Packers beat the Seahawks 30-13. The Packers might be the worst kept secret in the NFC. Everyone's looking at the Eagles. Everyone's looking at the Lions. They're looking at the Vikings. I mentioned last week the Rams would be a team that I would be fearful of playing. I wonder if we need to start considering the Packers as that group, because they are definitely in line to making the playoffs. They're a double-digit win team already. They're going to finish third in their division. That is not their fault. They have a coach, they have a quarterback, they have a running game. I wonder if we need to start talking more about the Green Bay Packers being a team that can make a surprise run in the NFC playoff race. That is your Week 15 rewind. We got 2 more games tonight, including a big one that is for the Schubert Six to either make us 5-1 and put us even more in the green, or to make us 4-2, which, okay, that's great. We'll be 11-7. Over our last 3 weeks picking here on the program. I would very much like a 5-1 week going into next week. That'd be very nice. That'd be something very nice to celebrate. We will finish up our number 1 of the program here on the other side. We were celebrating a victory yesterday, but we also learned that a contract extension could be on the way. That's next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back into the show. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060, wrapping up hour number 1 here of the program. A programming note for tomorrow, because if I don't say this now while it is in my head, I will forget about it. Tomorrow, in a bridged version of the lunch break, because we got ASU women's basketball. Pre-show starts, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, 11:30 tomorrow.
Yep, you're right.
With the game starting at 12, so we will have an abridged version, half-hour version of the lunch break tomorrow. So we will be just firing on all cylinders tomorrow because we've got 30 minutes to get all the takes out, to get all of our thoughts in before we pass it off to Jeff Munn and ASU women's basketball. So we will do that tomorrow, so make sure you join us for an abridged version of the lunch break here on the program. Wrapping up hour number 1 of the show. Yesterday, in the wake of celebrating the Cardinals' victory over the New England Patriots to move them back to 500, Craig Morgan of PHNX Sports reported that the Cardinals and Budda Baker are talking about a contract extension. So good news, Cardinals win the football game. Even better news, it looks like they are discussing a contract extension with their one major outstanding free agent before we get to the 2025 offseason. Now, words matter. The tense of those words matter. Craig said that the Cardinals and Budda Baker are talking about a contract extension. That is a present tense, ongoing use of the word talk. Not talked in the past, not going to talk, talking, meaning that these conversations are ongoing, not using the past tense, happening right now. And you know what? That makes a whole bunch of sense. Now that the James Conner deal is in the rearview mirror, now that they have that finalized, they know what James Conner cap number is going to be. They have a better view of what their 2025 cap situation is going to look like. It allows them to pivot to working on the Budda Baker extension. We thought this at the time when the James Conner extension came down. We said, great, this now frees them up to have the rest of the season to work on the Budda contract extension because there were reports around the trade deadline and around the bye week that the Cardinals are eager to extend Budda Baker, that they want an extension, that it is in a much better place than where it was maybe previously. I mean, we know the trade request, all of that stuff, that they were in a much better place. And so it makes sense. James Conner off the board. He signed. Now you can work on Budda Baker. The best place for the Arizona Cardinals to be heading into this offseason, results aside, playoffs, not making the playoffs, 9 wins, put all that to the side. Put the results of the season aside. The best place the Arizona Cardinals can be in going into this offseason is to be solely focused on players outside of your building. The worst place to be is to have a cloud hanging over you in the form of high-profile free agents that are major players on your team, that are major cultural pieces to your team. That can create quite the storm. Ask the Arizona Diamondbacks how this is working out for them. Not faulting them, but the Arizona Diamondbacks went into this offseason. Christian Walker became a free agent, and Jock Peterson became a free agent. And the Diamondbacks, and Mike Hazen, are talking about how, we got to piece our offense back together. And we are losing a lot of power and all of that stuff. And there are a lot of people that just point to, well, if you're losing a lot of offense and you're losing a lot of power, just bring back the guys that were here. Bring back Christian Walker, somebody who has sentimental value to the fan base. Just bring that guy back. 30 home run power, Gold Glove caliber first baseman. Just do the easy thing. Just bring him back. Sports is not that easy. Free agency is not that easy. And so it complicates things because you think there's a fair market value for Christian Walker. Your fan base doesn't care about that fair market value. They want their guy back in the building. The Diamondbacks have an offensive problem, and 2 of their current free agents would help address that problem. Imagine for a second that we go into the offseason for the Arizona Cardinals. James Conner was a free agent. Budda Baker was a free agent. Well, of the list of needs we would say that the Cardinals have, they would need a replacement at safety, and they would need another running back. As much as we love Trey Benson, they would need somebody to be in that position. So not only do they have other needs, not only do they need another wide receiver, not only do they need a pass rusher, not only do they need probably some linebacker help, some safety depth, some secondary pieces, all across the board. They need a bunch of stuff. If you didn't sign James Conner to an extension, and if you don't sign Budda Baker to an extension, you would have added both of those names and both of those positions to the list. It complicates things. You can't address everything in free agency. You can't. You can't address everything in the draft. You have to blend the two together to put together the best 53-man roster that you can put together. And so the best place you can be is to not go into an offseason adding things to your list, adding more positions that need to be filled. Because if you let these guys get to free agency, then there's always the chance that they don't come back. And then while you're also searching for pass rush help, you need to get a safety. While you're trying to get another wide receiver, you need to get a running back. And then it just becomes a situation where you can't fill all of those things in one offseason. And unfortunately, or fortunately, this team is in a place where they've got to make the next step. They've got to be in the playoff race next year. If they don't make the playoffs this year, playoffs are going to be a mandate next year. If they make the playoffs this year, returning to the playoffs are going to be a mandate next year. The playoffs are going to be a mandate. So you can't go into the year saying, oh, well, we just had so many things to address, so many holes to fill. That's not going to suffice. Fans are not going to accept that. You're not going to accept that. Nor should you. So by taking care of this now, by taking care of James Conner when they did, and hopefully taking care of Budda Baker before the end of the year, they get to do two things. They get to know the number. They don't have to worry about this back and forth and getting into a bidding war with other teams. So they get to know the number, which helps them better prepare for this offseason. It helps them better prepare for how much money do we truly have going into the offseason. But then it also allows them. Free agency takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of negotiation. There's a lot of conversation. It allows them to solely focus on the outside of the building noise. It allows them to look at the rest of the free agent market. They don't have to balance bringing back their own, taking care of their own, while also worrying about getting that pass rush, getting that wide receiver, adding that secondary depth. They don't have to worry about two things at once. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of worse ways for the Arizona Cardinals to spend money of the budget that they have allocated for 2025. A lot worse ways to spend it than a Budda Baker contract extension. We talk about James Conner being the leader of the offense, being the culture of the offense. Well, Budda Baker is the culture of the defense. Budda Baker is this defense. He is the leader. He is the quarterback of this defense. What kind of message do you send if that player leaves the building? What type of leadership void exists if Budda Baker goes and plays someplace else? Is there really, truly a name in-house that can immediately step up into that role? No. So there are a lot of worse ways to spend money than signing Budda Baker to a contract extension. So extremely encouraged to hear that the Cardinals and Budda Baker are talking. And I hope that sooner rather than later, we get news about a deal being done. That we get news about this no longer being an issue. So that this team, when they hit the offseason, can do the debrief. What went wrong? What went right? What holes do we have? What holes are covered up? What are our internal options? What are our external options? And they can hit free agency running, because this offseason is going to be the make or break offseason for Monty Ossenfort. This is going to be the make or break offseason for Jonathan Gannon, because if this team misses the playoffs, if this team is not playing postseason football, they're going to enter year 3 with a ton of pressure. And that pressure is going to start the moment that you can sign free agents. And so having James Conner and Budda Baker already locked up kind of alleviates a little bit of that pressure. It's still there. We're still going to talk about it. There's a lot to do. Fortunately, a lot of resources to get it done, both with draft picks if you want to make trades, or with cap space to sign players or take on players. But this is going to be a make or break offseason for the Arizona Cardinals, especially if they miss the playoffs, especially if they are not a team playing January football with the Super Bowl on the line. Win or go home. If they're not playing that football, if they're not hosting a playoff game in the wild card round of the playoffs, boy, is it going to be a make or break offseason in so many ways. That hot seat, it's probably lukewarm right now, maybe not even. it's going to start to heat up over the course of the summer because there is going to be so much for this team to do, even if they get the Budda Baker contract extension done, and they will have James Conner and Budda Baker under contract for 2025 and beyond. So I was encouraged to see that this is in the works, that the two sides are talking, and hopefully they can get a deal done so that you don't have any other cloud hanging over what is going to be a very important offseason. Might be one of the most important offseasons since they made the decision to draft Kyler Murray over Josh Rosen. That's probably the last major offseason that this franchise, this organization had, because that was a turning point. That was a pivot point. I think this offseason will be a pivot point for this regime, for this organization, to see if they can push things over the finish line. So end the season strong, get this contract extension done, and then worry about a massive offseason in 2025. Hour number 1 of the program in the books. We will start hour number 2 of the lunch break with this. He did exactly what we asked of him yesterday. Is it going to be enough down the stretch? A recap of Kyler Murray's day yesterday next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Hour number 2 of the program, we welcome you into the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Chris Schubert with you for one more hour here on this Monday edition of the show. 480-864-1060 is how you can join the conversation here today on the program. And we spent a lot of last week talking about Kyler Murray and his performance. And we spent Friday outlining what we needed to see. We said it was simple. Don't turn the ball over. Don't get sacked. The Cardinals had allowed 10 sacks over their first 15 games. It was 8 since the bye week. Turnovers during the 4-game winning streak. Kyler had, I think it was like 1 interception. He's had like 3 or 4 since the bye week. Don't turn the ball over. Don't get sacked. Play clean football. And we know what this offense is supposed to look like. Well, yesterday, Kyler Murray did that. No turnovers. No sacks allowed. His stat line, 23 of 30, 224 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and he added 11 yards on the ground. I want to do a thought experiment with everybody. And you have to be honest when we do this. But think to yourself. You don't know anything about Kyler Murray. You don't know anything about who the starting quarterback is for the Arizona Cardinals. If I came in here and I told you the day after a Cardinals victory that the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals had a stat line of 23 of 30, so threw the ball 30 times, 224 yards, didn't throw any touchdowns, didn't have any interceptions. The leading receiver on the team was a tight end, and they had a running back who had 2 touchdowns on the ground and had over 100 yards rushing. If I described that offense to you, and I described that quarterback stat line, and how his go-to target was his tight end, and how he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but he also didn't throw any interceptions, and they ran the ball extremely well, a running back with 100 yards on the ground, you would tell me that the starting quarterback of that team, in this case the Arizona Cardinals, was a rookie. Because when we talk about rookie quarterbacks, what do we talk about? Got to have a good running game, got to have a good defense, don't make any mistakes. Your tight end's your safety valve, the safety blanket. Those statistics match up with a quarterback that would be a rookie or first-year player, somebody who is not entering year 6, year 7, year 8 of his career, right? A veteran in this league. Kyler Murray is a veteran quarterback. Yesterday's stat line was that of a rookie. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. They won the football game. They moved to 7-7. They snapped their 3-game losing streak yesterday. But can they play winning football long-term that way? I know they could do it yesterday. I know they can do it against other opponents. But is that brand of football, is that style of football only going to work against teams like the Patriots? Teams like the Panthers, who they play coming up? Teams like the Jets, the Bears? Is it only going to work against those teams? Can Kyler Murray play this way with a similar stat line against the Rams and 49ers to close the season and expect to win? Can that be a realistic floor for his performance? Can we say if he just does that, they're going to beat the Rams, they're going to beat the 49ers, and they might potentially be a playoff team? Or does there need to be more from this offense? Now, it does feel like we're picking on Kyler Murray a little bit after he went out there on Sunday and did exactly what we asked of him. We asked no turnovers, don't get sacked. He did both of those things. So I understand if you think we're picking on Kyler Murray after they won the football game and he did exactly what we outlined. We said the answers were simple. But there's context that needs to apply here. This team, this franchise, has bigger aspirations. They're trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to compete for championships. That is the path they are trying to go on. Everything needs to be funneled through that lens. Is the quarterback that we saw yesterday, is the offense that we saw yesterday good enough to play against the Lions, to play against the Eagles, to play against the Packers? Is it good enough to go up against those teams? Is it good enough to take on the top tier, the top shelf of the NFC? And it might not matter this year. They might not make the playoffs. And if they go out in the first round, that might be okay, because they would have gotten there. That would have been a step in the right direction. So it might not be considered a failure to not be able to do that this year. But next year, are the Eagles going anywhere? Are the Lions going anywhere? Are the Packers going anywhere? The 49ers had a down year this year. As long as the Rams have Matt Stafford, they're going to be a threat. Look around the NFC. There's a bunch of teams that aren't going anywhere, that are going to be there. And so ask yourself, is the play that we saw from Kyler Murray in this offense yesterday good enough to step foot on the field in the playoffs against those teams? Are you able to score with the best of them? The answer is no. They're not good enough to go up against those teams. They're going to have to. They're going to have to be that good to go up against those teams. And so, yes, Kyler Murray did what we asked of him yesterday. Kyler Murray didn't turn the ball over. Although he tried to. Got lucky. Got one called back on a roughing the passer penalty, which was a 50-50 kind of coin toss. But quarterbacks get the benefit of the doubt. You love when your quarterback gets that benefit of the doubt and gets that penalty. Took an interception off the board. A bad decision, by the way. But no turnovers. No sacks allowed. But a pedestrian stat line. A stat line that can beat the Patriots. A stat line that can beat the Panthers. A stat line that can beat any of the teams that you, right now, if you went to tankathon.com, would be picking in the top 10 of the NFL draft. He can beat those teams with that stat line. Can he beat the Lions? Can he beat the Eagles? Can he beat the Commanders? So that's the lens that I look at yesterday through. Because, yeah, this year is going to be what this year is going to be. They're either going to make the playoffs or they're going to miss the playoffs. But next year is going to be a playoff mandate. And I just don't know if we are watching a team who, by the way, if they fall short, might still get a second-place schedule next year. So you're going to play some really tough opponents out of your division to go along with the tough division that you play in. So that play yesterday is better than what we saw the 3 weeks coming out of the bye, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough for a quarterback who's a veteran in this league, who is on his second coach, who's on his second set of offensive play callers, that is in his second era of quarterback, that has the most talent around him than he has had in his entire career with the Arizona Cardinals. He needs to be better. His stat line needs to be better. This offense needs to be better because they are playing a very bare bones, stripped down version of offense that you would see rookie quarterbacks run. I remember Mark Sanchez going to back-to-back AFC championship games with the New York Jets. How? They ran the football, they played great defense, and they said, hey, kid, don't turn the ball over. That's what it feels like this team is running with Kyler Murray. There's a ceiling on that. There was a ceiling on Mark Sanchez. There's a ceiling on rookie quarterbacks when all they can do is throw it to the safety valve in their tight end, who they just pound the rock, run the football, play good defense. You have to have more. You have to have the big explosive plays. You have to be able to play with some tempo. You have to have those game-breaking plays that you see all day long if you're watching Red Zone. I watched Brian Thomas, Devontae Adams in the Jets-Jags game. Just up and down the field making plays. The Bills and the Lions, those two teams making plays up and down the field. I watched Lamar scramble around, make some incredible plays. Rashad Bateman scored a couple of touchdowns. Mark Andrews. I mean, you got stars. Bengals, Titans. That's the level of offense the Cardinals need to aspire to. Because this version, while it's efficient and while it's better than what they were running last year, it has a ceiling. And that ceiling isn't where this team wants to be. That ceiling is first-round exit in the playoffs. That ceiling is win a game, but ultimately fall short against the big boys of the NFC. This team's not on the same level as the Lions, the Eagles, the Packers. Not on that level. That's the level they need to aspire to because those teams are not going anywhere. Jalen Hurts isn't on the back nine of his career. Jared Goff has a few more years at least left in the tank. Jordan Love is just starting his journey in Green Bay. Jayden Daniels is just starting his journey in Washington. The Cardinals have to catch up. So while yesterday boxes were checked, it's a difference when you're at work and you get a task. There's a difference between doing the task to the best of your ability or just doing it to check the box. Yesterday, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense, they checked the boxes. They checked the boxes. So I can't be mad at them. I can't call them into a meeting and say, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? They did what the job description said they were supposed to do. But if they want to advance in this career path, if they want to be a better version of themselves, they need to be better than what we saw yesterday. There is a ceiling on this. And that ceiling doesn't match what the expectations are going to be in that building going into next year. Coming up on the other side, if the Phoenix Suns have a need, I know I said earlier I'm done with them, but if the Phoenix Suns have a need, can they actually address it via a trade? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back in the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. It was a good weekend for the Phoenix Suns. 2-0 over the weekend, beating the Jazz on Friday, taking care of the Trailblazers last night. Hour number 1 of the program. If you missed anything from the show, you can always podcast the show afterwards. Just search the lunch break wherever you get your podcast. I made a declaration. I am not walking back from that declaration. I have made it very clear. As of December 16th, 2024, I am out on the Phoenix Suns. I'm out. They are not going to the Western Conference Finals. They're not going to the championship. They're not winning a title. Nothing. All of it is off the table. I am taking it completely off the table. So I made that declaration in hour number 1 of the show. That doesn't mean we're going to stop talking about the Phoenix Suns. It doesn't mean I'm still not going to have opinions about the Phoenix Suns. But everybody needs to know that that's where I stand. I have put myself on the record that I think this team is going to do exactly what they did a year ago, and that is be a first-round exit in the playoffs. That's where I'm at. So we will continue to dissect this team. But I wanted to put it on record after trying to play both sides and convince myself, be in, be out. I am picking a side, and that side is done. Out. If you were evaluating this team and you were looking at what they needed, if you were saying they're an incomplete roster, if you were saying there's something missing from the Phoenix Suns, what would you say is the biggest need for this team as we head into trade season? Would you point to the health of the team? Would you say, look, man, they've got a great roster. They had a great summer. They were able to fill all of the holes that we thought they needed to fill. They got the point guard. They got the depth. They got the 3-and-D guy in Ryan Dunn. They were able to keep the big three intact while also doing all of that. They got that stuff done. They just need to be healthy. When they're healthy, they're a championship contending team. That's what they need. Maybe that's your position. Maybe you just want a little bit more depth so that there's a little bit of a deeper rotation for Mike Budenholzer to turn to when there is an injury. I'm not even going to say if there is an injury, when there is an injury. Maybe you say, look, Chris, I watched in the summertime, and I watched Devin Booker take over in the Olympics. I watched him be the best version of himself, and he this year has been one of the worst versions of himself. He's still a great player. He's still a good player for this team, but he is not the guy that we have seen in years past because we haven't seen Olympic Book this season. So those are the 3 paths you can go down. 2 of those paths, trades are not an option. You can't trade for health. Even in this hypothetical world where they're trading for Jimmy Butler's not the most healthy guy at this stage of his career. You can't trade for health. Devin Booker's overall play, you can't make a trade. This isn't a video game where you can acquire some potion that Devin Booker can drink and all of a sudden it's going to be a throwback and he's going to be the old version of himself. Doesn't work that way. This is not a video game. You can't trade your way to fixing those things. Could you maybe make a move on the margins for some depth? Yeah. A trade can fix that if you think that's the biggest problem. That's not the biggest problem for the Phoenix Suns. The 2 biggest problems for this team, Devin Booker hasn't been playing all that great, although he had a great weekend this past weekend, and that they're not healthy. Let's look at Book's numbers for a second. We dove into this, I want to say a week or 2 into the season, and because he wasn't playing all that great, and I was the guy that said, hold on a second, pump the brakes. We're like 10 games into the season, 15 games into the season. Can we relax a little bit? Can we just wait? We let this develop a little bit. If we get further into the season and this is still a problem, let's have that conversation. Well, we're there. He's got 25.4 points per game. That's the lowest mark in his career since 2020-21 season. His effective field goal percentage is down to the lowest since the 17-18 campaign. His three-point percentage is down. His field goal percentage is the worst since the 17-18 campaign. This is not the Devin Booker that we are used to seeing. Now, he scored 34 against the Jazz on Friday. He scored 28 against the Trailblazers, both wins last night. That is more in line with what you are used to seeing from Devin Booker. But the Suns need him to be Olympic Devin Booker. They need him to be the guy that we have seen the last couple of years. That's the guy they need him to be because we know how good they are when Kevin Durant is on the floor. But if they want to make a run in the Western Conference playoffs, again, I'm out. I'm not. I'm just playing the what-if game. You know where I stand. But if they're going to make that run, if you're still one of the people that believes that they can do it, if you're still dreaming of them holding up that trophy at the end of the year, he can't be the version that we have seen up until this point. He can't. They will not win a championship with this version. So that's the problem. That doesn't get fixed via a trade. Health doesn't get fixed via a trade. You don't have any pathway to go towards to fix health, to fix Devin Booker's play. Can't trade for anybody. Can't trade for anything that's going to fix this. So you can make some superficial move at the deadline, acquire somebody to add to your rotation. It is not going to change those two things. It is not going to change that the moment Kevin Durant came back last Friday, Bradley Beal put himself back on the injury report. It doesn't change that Devin Booker hasn't played up to Devin Booker standards through the first 30-plus games of the season. Trading for somebody on the bench doesn't change those two things. So, unfortunately, this team is what this team is. They are the team that was designed in the summer. And when this team was put together with the idea of running it back and making the tweaks that they made, and I give the Suns front office all the credit in the world for making these moves because they pulled off something that nobody thought they were going to be able to pull off. They were able to address the needs that this team had despite being a second apron team and have everything against them. They didn't have any of the assets or tools that other teams had to improve their roster. They were extremely limited in what they were able to do. Despite that, they put together a roster that even I got behind at the beginning of the season. That I said they did enough to warrant running it back. But when you made that decision in the summertime and you made the moves that you made, you boxed yourself in. You locked yourself in to this team being the way that it is. Because if you were going to make a trade at the deadline to try to win now, you're not trading Devin Booker. You're not trading Kevin Durant. The one piece you would move to try to get better is Bradley Beal. Problem with that, no trade clause. And I don't see him moving that to go to a team that isn't going anywhere, that isn't trying to win. Now, Miami, he apparently wanted to go there in the past, so there's at least a small appetite to see if that could happen. I still don't think it will happen. I still think there's way too many hurdles there, but that's the move that you make. You're boxed in. Your one good move is to try to trade a guy who has a no-trade clause. Good luck with that. Good luck trying to figure that out. This team is locked in to who they are. This group either does it or they don't. It's that simple. They are either healthy enough to get it done. Devin Booker finds it and gets back to being old school Devin Booker. Kevin Durant is able to stay healthy, and they're able to look like the team that they have looked like when all three guys are on the floor. They either do that or they don't. There isn't some magical trade that they can make that's going to fix all this. There isn't a trade that fixes their health problem. There isn't a trade that fixes Devin Booker's play. There isn't a magic solution to this. You can't wave a magic wand and fix this. When they made the decision in the summer to double down and run this back and make the tweaks, they committed to this being their roster for a majority of the season, if not all of it. So they've got to put it together. They've got to figure it out. I let you know in hour number one where I stand at this point, even though they won 2 games this past weekend. Now, if Devin Booker continues to play that way, maybe we'll make an amendment to my declaration. We'll have a new declaration. But I don't see it. I am on record. First round exit for the Phoenix Suns this year in the playoffs.
You think they'll get that far?
It's a great point by you, producer Corey, because they need to be healthy enough to even make the playoffs because we know what this looks like when they're not healthy. They're a lottery team when they're not healthy. So, can go either way. But the Suns' needs don't match up with trades. They just match up with this roster figuring it out. This is the path that they chose to go down. They picked this highway. This highway doesn't have exit ramps for another 45 miles. There's no rest stop. There's no exit ramps. That's it. You took this exit to get onto this highway. You either turn the car around and go all the way back to the beginning, or you go full steam ahead and you see this through. That's where they're at. That's where they are as a team. Coming up on the other side, we'll get more into the Cardinals and where they go from here with a big game against the Panthers on Sunday. And I have a question about the holidays to ask producer Corey. We'll do that next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. I am ready to sidetrack us for the next 12 minutes. I'm already prepared in advance for the can of worms I'm about to open.
Okay. What's your plan?
Well, as you know, I opened the show talking about my weekend. Hope your weekend was good, producer Corey.
Yes, it was.
I told the story about how I spent my Saturday shopping. And I was out with thousands of my closest friends because everybody was shopping on Saturday.
Yes.
And I went to a bunch of different places. It wasn't, normally, I like to be the guy. I am, give me the list, put everything down that we need, tell me what store it's at, and I am in, out. Okay, this store, I need this for Aunt Susie. I need this for Cousin Tommy. We're in or out. We just move on, right? The company that I had with me, I love her, my fiance, doesn't shop that way. We have two different shopping methods.
Okay, what's hers?
We stroll.
Oh.
We stroll. We consider a bunch of different gifts for people, and I'm the first person to put my hand up and say I lose my patience pretty quickly. I don't like not having a plan. I don't like just strolling around the store,
Okay,
especially when there's hundreds of other people in there. Just not my cup of tea. So I did all my shopping. You asked me, did I complete everything? And I said, no, I still need to do some online stuff for some people.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you pro or against the Secret Santa white elephant approach to Christmas?
So I am, against my will, a part of a white elephant in the family.
Okay, now wait a minute. This is what I'm trying to get to. This is what I'm trying to unpack here.
Yes.
You said against your will.
Yeah, there's no choice around it.
You would, if you had a choice, you would opt out.
Okay, so I would say for white elephant, it is solely dependent on how good the company is for it to be effective or funny or memorable.
Great point by you. I think it's the point of the day here on the show. I think that's absolutely the point of the day, because one of the gifts we had to shop for was a Secret Santa white elephant gift.
There you go.
The difference between the two, Secret Santa, you get the person's name.
Yep.
The white elephant is the game where
you toss it around and wherever it goes, it goes.
So we were buying a Secret Santa gift on Saturday.
Okay.
And it was for it was for somebody at my fiance's job.
Okay.
But this person, she doesn't really interact with on a regular basis. They're just in the office.
Yeah.
So she didn't know what to get him.
Yeah.
And she's looking at me, and I'm like, I've never met the man. So I don't know what to get him. And so this is the part about Secret Santa that I don't like, is if you draw the wrong person.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If we did it here in this building, if somebody drew my name, I've been here for 4 months. Like, what do you do?
It'd be tough. They would go off of like your Yankees hat and go, all this guess Yankees.
Whoa, Mets hat, please.
Mets hat.
Please. If I was wearing a Yankees hat, something's very terribly wrong. I lost a bet or something.
I didn't see any orange, so I thought it was Yankees.
Fair enough. I am wearing the Met City Connect hat. But so same thing would apply for me. If I drew somebody's name, I've only been here for 4 months, and there are people that are in this building that I don't interact with on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
My luck, I draw that person.
Yeah.
And then I'm asking around, and then you're not really supposed to do that because you're not supposed to give away what you have. And so I don't like any of this.
Yeah.
And so, but here is the catch-22 of this, and this is what I wanted to get your thoughts on. My fiance, big family.
Okay.
Okay. We do a big family gathering. We have been pushing for a number of years because there's just so many people. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying gifts for everybody. It's not happening. There's too many people. There's the close, immediate family.
Yes.
The 5 or 6 people, they're getting gifts. When we go over for the big holiday party, I'm sorry, there's a bunch of people. I didn't get you anything. I'm sorry. That's just how it works. So we've been pushing to do the white elephant thing.
Okay.
Because then at least somebody's going to leave with something.
Yes.
And then it's just fun, right? Push back every single year.
Really?
If they don't want to do it because they want to buy gifts for everybody else. You can continue to buy gifts for everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, don't ruin my fun because I feel terrible going over to the Christmas party and we haven't gotten gifts for everybody. But I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
That's way too many people.
I think my family, like almost a decade plus ago, they all agreed like immediate only for gifts and then white elephant.
So, okay, what are we defining as immediate?
So like who lives with you?
But that would only be 2 people for me.
Yeah.
So that's tough. There are other people that I want to buy gifts
Exactly.
for.
That's kind of the concession.
But then when you start to expand and you loosen up the guardrails, that's where it gets out of control.
Yeah, it's all or nothing.
It's right. And then you get to a place where you just – and so I have not done it yet. Normally what I do this time of year is – here's another thing. We are completely off the rails. Maybe we'll get to the Cardinals. I have no idea. My fiance's birthday is 3 days before Christmas.
Oh.
So I've got to shop for 2.
Yes.
Because I can't do it. I can't do the combined thing.
So, yeah, similar story in my family. I have someone who is very close also.
Yeah, and they're close to Christmas, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I can't do the combined gift thing. I lose.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat.
I'm not allowed to do it. I've lost the fight, and it's fine. Because I'm like, why can't I just combine everything and give it to you all on Christmas?
Oh,
no. Can't do that. So that I buy things specifically for the birthday. We do that on the birthday.
And don't forget the birthday card, too.
Birthday card's very important.
Yes.
So I have yet to do that shopping for the birthday.
Okay.
I will be doing that this week.
Got it.
Again, it allows me to just do my own thing. I can shop. I can go in and out. I don't have to be bothered. I don't have to be sidetracked. Everything's fine. But what I normally will do is I'll pick up a a couple of gift cards.
Okay.
Just to have in the back pocket.
Yeah.
In case you forget about somebody, right? You put together the whole list, and
Sure.
then you forgot about Uncle Joe.
Yeah, just
And
somebody
now-
in there.
And now, okay, I've got my stash of gift cards that I've accumulated over the years
Yeah.
that I can pull from for Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
But I am very much pro Secret Santa White Elephant because it removes the stress.
Oh, absolutely
It removes that friction of I'm now going over here. I don't know if everybody here has gotten me something.
Yeah.
I know I haven't gotten them something. And so if they give me something, now we're going to do this awkward dance for a couple of hours at the family Christmas party.
Yep.
I hate it. I hate it.
Completely understand. I think in my experience with White Elephant, it does go decently well, although the whole jokey side, not too serious, money limit sort of thing.
Right. You set the parameters.
Yes.
You set, hey, we're not buying anything more than $50.
Yep.
And you need to keep it, in balance.
Simple. Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
I have bought laundry pods almost every single year.
Wait a minute.
Because no matter who gets them, you're going to use them. It'll save you some money.
Well, here's the problem.
Yes.
Then they know it's from you.
Okay, maybe not every year, but
Okay, you mix it up.
Enough to where everybody forgets.
I love the White Elephant. Secret Santa, way too much pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
If I draw a person that I
For a
don't
complete
know
stranger,
very well,
it's
tough.
Yeah.
The White Elephant, if I'm with family, now it's not only I'm buying something that I need to appeal to the masses.
Yes.
But then also there's the game theory of I got to make sure I end up with the best gift. I have to make sure I win the game.
Yeah.
I love that. That makes the holiday fun for me.
Literally last year, I really wanted a blender just for home use, and somebody else in the White Elephant actually got a handheld blender, and I was like, okay, target acquired.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going for.
And I just focused it, and I actually ended up getting it.
Yeah, there are times where
it just worked out.
The needs that you have match up with what somebody bought for the White Elephant, and you're like, I am in. That is the gift I want.
And that is the most intensely focused I've been for any holiday season.
That 100%. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that you are the pro Secret Santa White Elephant.
Yes, it's better than trying to figure out for every single person in the family. It gets so messy.
We sat down to do the list.
Yeah.
And we were just writing names down, and then my fiance would be like, oh, we forgot about so-and-so. The list just kept growing and growing and growing.
And the thing is, the families get bigger every year.
Right, and then when that happens, all bets are off. Sorry, I needed to sidetrack and get producer Corey's thoughts on this. I'm doing a lot of holiday shopping this weekend. It's that time of year.
Yeah, enjoy more of your friends this weekend.
Yes, I will be spending a little bit more time with friends and family this weekend. I'm hopeful to do the rest of my shopping here during the week. The Cardinals are playing a very important matchup with the Carolina Panthers this upcoming Sunday. We will continue to preview that matchup and do it more in depth here as the week goes on. But I do think it's incredibly important to discuss what the Cardinals have put on the table by winning yesterday, because there's a big difference between being 0-4 since the bye, being 6-8, done. The declaration I made about the Phoenix Suns would pale in comparison to the rant I would have gone on this morning if the Cardinals lost to the Patriots, effectively ending their season. They did not do that. They moved themselves to 7-7. It is still an uphill climb. They need to win out, and they need Seattle to lose one of their to go 1-2 down the stretch. If that pathway plays out, Cardinals run the table. They beat the Panthers, they beat the Rams, they beat the 49ers. By beating the Rams, it takes anything that the Rams do off the table, because then the Cardinals will have beaten them twice. And if they run the table, they would be 10-7. Them finishing 10-7 requires the Seahawks to go 1-2 to make sure they don't also finish 10-7. So that's the path. The Cardinals need to win out, or one of the paths. The Cardinals need to win out, and they need the Seahawks to go 1-2 down the stretch. Now, Geno Smith left last night with a knee injury. It appears as though he's okay, but Sam Howell finished that game for the Seahawks. They have a really tough schedule coming up, the Seahawks, because they have some divisional matchups. They also, I believe, play the Vikings here down the stretch. So they have some tough matchups down the stretch here. They will start with a matchup against the Vikings this upcoming Sunday, so they could very easily fall to 8-7. And then they have the Bears and the Rams. So if you're looking at this through the context of 1-2 is what the Seahawks need to go in order for you to make the playoffs, you're looking at that Bears game as the one that you think they're going to win. And you need to be the biggest Minnesota fans, and you need to be the biggest LA fans. Because if they finish 1-2, that means they will finish 9-8, the Cardinals will finish 10-7, and they take the tiebreaker off the table. That's the path. Cardinals take care of business. And the more the season progresses during these final 3 weeks, the more pressure that you can put on them. Now, a Cardinals win and a Seahawk loss this Sunday would at least have them tied record-wise, and it would open everything up. We are awaiting. It doesn't matter for this weekend because we know the time that when the Cardinals are going to play at the Panthers are going to play at 11. Their game against the Rams is still up in the air, and there's a decent chance that gets put into a primetime slot. We know the last 2 weeks of the season, the NFL keeps the schedule completely open so that they can put the marquee matchups into primetime and put all these slots together so that they have good matchups in these primetime games. There's a decent chance that if the Rams win and the Seahawks lose and the Cardinals win, Rams-Cardinals is going to be flexed into primetime, and boy, are we going to have a week there where you're going to talk a lot about the Arizona Cardinals and the pressure that they're going to be under for that game, either on the 28th or the 29th. We don't know when exactly it'll be played when the Cardinals set that, or when the NFL sets that schedule for the Cardinals. So by winning yesterday, they open the door for all of these possibilities. It's still an uphill battle. It's still win out, Seahawks go 1-2. But it is much more possible than it was yesterday after they started their game against the Patriots. They walked into the game yesterday with a, 8% chance of making the playoffs? 8.5 were their odds? I'm going to very quickly look at what their odds are now to make the playoffs. They've jumped up to 12.1%. So we talked about them moving upward. They're going to continue to move upward as long as they continue to win. Coming up on the other side, we wrap up this edition of The Lunch Break with the leftovers. We'll do it next. KDUS AM 1060. Back to wrap up today's edition of The Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. Programming note for tomorrow, an abridged version of the show. We've got you from 11 to 11:30, and then we're going to pass things over to ASU women's basketball. They start pregame at 11:30. Tip is at 12. Jeff Munn on the call, so we will do an abridged version of the show. We will be we'll just jam everything into the first
Just going as much as you can in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. First 2 segments of the show, we're just going to jam everything in there. So my guess is daily special, and then we'll do power rankings. Our NFL power rankings is probably what I'll expect tomorrow's show to look like, but we'll see how it all gets put together tomorrow. I'm glad that I'm repeating it out loud, that we're only on for a half hour tomorrow, because I know myself. later on today, I'll start prepping tomorrow's show, and I'll put together a full 2-hour show.
Gosh.
So I'm just repeating it out loud so that the listeners know, but also for myself.
I mean, I can let you go for 2 hours and just mute your mic.
That's great. You know what? That's a great point. What I'll do is I'll turn the mic on in here.
Yeah.
And it won't actually be on the board.
Yeah.
I'll be talking to myself, and then you'll be like 2 minutes, and then I can pretend to do a show while you're doing other things. Yeah, that makes some sense. But yes, an abridged version of the show tomorrow from 11 to 11:30, and then we pass things off to ASU women's basketball. The leftovers, we get to all of the stories that we didn't get to throughout the show, and this is one that I really wanted to get to here today because this is further proof that something needs to be done in college football. And no, I'm not yelling at clouds the way a bunch of other people do about, college football is better the way it used to be. There just need to be guardrails. There just need to be guidelines. There need to be rules and structure and organization put in place here. Because you have a team that was given a bowl invitation, that being Marshall. They were given a bowl invitation to play in the Independence Bowl. They were given a spot. They earned that spot with the way that they played, but they were given a spot. They were invited to play in the Independence Bowl. They accepted that invitation, accepted the invitation to the bowl game, and they now have opted out of that bowl game because they have too many players going into the transfer portal. Since December 8th, 2024, so that was 8 days ago, they have had 29 scholarship players leave the program.
Ooh.
They won the Sun Belt. They went 10-3. And their coach left for Southern Miss.
Already?
Yep. They appointed a new head coach. And now because you got 29 scholarship players into the portal, Marshall has opted out of the Independence Bowl against Army. So now Army doesn't have an opponent. And this, to me, is everything wrong with college football. Not players opting out to focus on the draft, not the transfer portal. It is all because these things have been left to run uncontrolled for the last couple of years. There's no structure. There's no guardrails. This is what you get when you allow the transfer portal to open while there are still bowl games going on. Everybody worries. And they've been worrying for years now. All these bowl games, they're just meaningless. These players are opting out. Nothing really matters. Everything's focused on the college football playoff, and everybody has been warning against, man, you're just making these bowl games not matter. You know what's making the bowl games not matter? The transfer portal is making these bowl games not matter. Because when you allow players, the moment the season is over, to hop into the portal and change schools. Listen, if you want to allow the transfer portal to be a thing, we can have the debate on what side of that you sit on. But if it's going to exist, it cannot exist in this fashion. It can't. There has to be a structure in place. This portal, this transfer window has to open after the season is over, meaning the day after the college football national championship. That is when this stuff can start to take place. And you go after teams that try to skirt the rules, just like you do when they have recruiting violations, and you set up a structure. This is all over the place. Why? Because the NCAA doesn't know what they're doing. College football needs their own governing body. They operate separately than all of the other sports. They just do. The transfer portal needs better rules and regulations. It needs a better structure. You have a team that was 10-3, that won the Sun Belt, got invited to a bowl game, and they withdrew from a bowl game. That is the biggest stain you can leave on college football. There is your example that you can point to. If you're somebody who hates the way college football is right now, you would point to that and say, see, that's what's wrong with college football. And I agree with you. The transfer portal being structured the way it is structured right now opened the door for this. And you know what? I hope, and it's not entirely their fault, but you certainly would expect that when they accepted the invitation, they knew where their roster was at. So I think the NCAA needs to set up rules, but also Marshall's got to be punished in a major way for allowing this to occur. You accept an invitation to a bowl game, and then you withdraw after a bunch of players leaving the transfer portal. It's just, this is what's wrong with college football. You just opt out of a bowl that you already accepted to play in. I'm sorry that 29 players transferred. Figure it out. Find walk-ons. Do what you got to do. You accepted this invitation. You took a spot from somebody else. This spot, if you would have gone to the Independence Bowl and all the bowls and said, listen, we don't think we can field the team, give the spot to somebody else, we are foregoing our bowl eligibility this year. Another team that has a complete roster could have earned that spot, could have been given that spot, and they could have had their moment. And they could have had a fun end to their season. Instead, you've made a mockery of the whole thing. So I've been wanting to talk about that since it happened, and we fit it in here to the leftovers. We've got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. We have a ton on the line here on this show because we have a chance with the Vikings covering tonight, with Minnesota covering these 7 against the Bears. We would have a 5-1 week here on the show. That's probably what we start the show with tomorrow. We might do all 30 minutes on that tomorrow. If we cover and we go 5-1 in the Schubert 6, the whole 30 minutes might be that.
Just a half-hour victory lap?
Yeah, it might be. Might be just a lot of music and a lot of celebration. Yeah, that's what it might be tomorrow. That's the first game. That starts at 6. Then at 6:30, the Raiders will host the Falcons. You can listen to that right here on the station. Pre-game will start at 6, right after Rooster, and then you'll be able to hear the game starting at 6:30 as the Raiders will host the Falcons. So 2 big Monday night games. They don't really have playoff implications. The Bears aren't playing for anything. The Vikings, the Lions lost, so this is a big game for them. The 1 seed in the NFC is right there in reach. They can play their way into the conversation, so it's important for them. On the other side, the Raiders aren't playing for anything at 2-11. Looks like Desmond Ridder is going to get the start for them tonight. And then the Falcons, they need to win to keep pace with the Bucs, who they are 1 game behind right now. If they win at 7-7, they'd be 1 game behind the Bucs. A loss would put them 2 games behind with 3 games to play. So that would be an uphill battle. It's primetime Kirk, though, so we know what that's going to look like. So 2 Monday night games tonight, and then we start this week. I know producer Corey has been eagerly awaiting for this, but we start this week, and I'm just making sure that we start this week. But I'm pretty sure this Saturday, we start NFL football on Saturday. That's right, 2 NFL games on Saturday. So a game on Thursday this week, 2 games on Saturday, and then a bunch of games on Sunday and Monday. So Saturday NFL starts this weekend. It feels like just yesterday the season started. And yet here we are. We got Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Every day of the week, you've got football. Christmas falls in the middle of the week. We got 2 games on Christmas. You've got football basically every day that you can consider. And week 15 will wrap up tonight with those 2 Monday night games. We are very much paying attention to the Vikings and the Bears, because it means a 5-1 week in the Schubert 6. Just a great week overall. And really, a lot of the games were kind of comfortable. Ravens -16 against the Giants, mostly comfortable. The Rams +3, that was kind of comfortable, but they won the game. So how uncomfortable did we get? The Broncos -4, it was scary early when it was almost 19-7, 20-7, but Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball before he gets into the end zone. Then the Broncos flipped the switch. That was good. The Bengals -5.5 against the Titans. Again, not really stressful there. They changed their quarterback in the 4th quarter. So a very stress-free week here on the show, making picks. That's nice for a change. 7-5 going into the week last week. We're 4-1 already, so we are 11-6 so far over our last 3 weeks. Let's make sure we end it on a positive note to get to 12-6. And one more story that I wanted to get to here in the leftovers. It broke a little bit after we got off the air on Friday. It was a report that the Ishbia brothers, Matt Ishbia and his brother, who is one of the controlling partners, are attempting or interested in buying the Twins. The Twins have been listed for sale, and they are apparently interested in buying the Minnesota Twins. And I don't know how much impact that would have on the Phoenix Suns. It probably wouldn't have any at all, because the way it works right now is Matt is in charge, and his brother is one of the owners. He's a controlling partner, but doesn't really handle any of the day-to-day stuff. And it would be the reverse for the Twins, where Matt, for the Twins, that Matt would be kind of just in the background, but would be listed as an owner. And his brother, Justin, would be the majority owner, because Justin right now is the minority owner and brother, obviously, of Suns majority owner, Matt Ishbia. And they are looking to buy the Twins. And Justin has a net worth of nearly $5 billion. So he will be able to very much put some money in there. It looks like the Twins are going to be worth $1.5 and $2 billion. The family that first bought the Twins bought them for $44 million back in 1984. And so Justin, who owns a 22% stake in the mortgage lender that his brother Matt, the owner of the Suns, has. He is listed as the alternative governor for the Suns and for the Mercury, and he has, he's a minority owner. This would be the flip. Justin would be the majority owner of the Twins, and Matt would be the minority owner, and that's what they would do. I don't think it would change anything about the Phoenix Suns, but it is a big deal because there's a lot of talk about them doing more here in this market, maybe with a hockey team in the future. If they buy a baseball team, not really sure what their future plans would look like in that regard. That's going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. We appreciate you joining us. Producer Corey, thanks for all that you do. Hope everybody makes it a great rest of their Monday. We will talk to you tomorrow. See ya!